Page 14. White. By the time I made it home, the sweat was pouring off of me. I was breathing harder than ever. Every part of my body was on fire. I couldn't go inside or everyone would know something was wrong. My right hand was in my coat pocket, still wrapped around the gun. I could smell that it had just been fired, but I wouldn't pull it out again. I bit down hard on the tip of a finger and pulled Marcus's glove off my other hand with my teeth. I wiped the sweat from my face with it and stuffed the glove into the empty coat pocket. I turned the knob on the front door and opened it. Gotti jumped up and hit me in the stomach with both paws, but I pushed him down with one hand and scratched him behind the ears. My sister was lying on the floor watching TV. "Is it Marcus with you?" she asked. I wasn't sure what would come out of my mouth, so I just shook my head. My folks were in the kitchen. I heard my mom call out something to me about dinner, but I went right upstairs and locked the bathroom door behind me. When I turned back around, I was staring straight into the mirror. The sweat was starting down my forehead again. The skin was stretched tight across my face and my eyes were bulging out. I could have been looking at a murderer. I took the gun out of my pocket and put it in the sink. I heard my sister coming up the stairs talking on the phone. That's when I felt a bang, like I had shot that man all over again. Only I could feel the trigger slip between my finger and Marcus's glove this time. I could feel myself jerk backwards and could see the blood. I listened until I heard my sister's bedroom door shut. Then I peeled off the other glove and grabbed the gun. I opened the door just wide enough to check the hall, and when I saw that it was clear, I bolted for the attic. Mom hadn't changed a thing up there since my grandpa died in his sleep last year. Sometimes, it almost felt like he still lived with us. The pictures of him with my grandma were on the table next to his bed. My mom dusted them almost every day. In all the times I took his gun, it never bothered me. But now I felt sick to my stomach. I reached up to the top shelf of his closet and took down the brown shoebox. There were a dozen rubber bands wrapped around it. They were old and stiff, but I undid them all without any of them snapping. I had left a brick in its place, so I put the gun back inside and hid the brick on the closet floor under some old magazines. Then I slipped the rubber bands back around the box and put it away. I got out of there and grabbed a basketball from my room. Halfway down the stairs, I held the ball out in front of me to stop any questions about where I was headed. My mom saw me at the bottom step and called out my name. Then my dad turned around to look at me. I lifted the ball up in front of my face and said, "I'm going out to find Marcus." The wind ran through my wet clothes. I tried to dribble the ball to keep warm, but it would hardly come back up off the ground. It was just too cold. I knew that Marcus would be either in his house or at the courts in the circle. I turned in between the first two buildings of the project and could hear a game going on. I turned the next corner and the wind dropped off behind the big buildings. Moses and X were playing one-on-one at the basket under the light. Marcus was sitting by himself on a bench next to the court. His hands were in his pockets and his face was down into his coat. X yelled, "Now we can play some two-man." When I heard that, I knew that he hadn't told them what happened. It was the first time I could remember that me and Marcus didn't give each other a pound or a slap on the back. We just looked at each other. "It just went off," I said to him in a low voice. I flipped Marcus the ball and he cradled it in his fingertips. He made an excuse to Moses and X about not playing, and we headed out of the other end of the park together. "Look at them go, they're so scared," Moses echoed through the circle. "They're feeling the pressure big time," hooted X. "They know it could have been the end of black and white tonight," and they both laughed. When we got out of earshot, Marcus asked me, "Do you think he's dead?" I told him that I didn't think so, that the bullet just grazed him, and there was blood on the back of his head and neck. I knew the window next to him got shattered, but I wasn't really sure about anything. "Oh God, not in the head," Marcus cried out loud. Then he jumped up and smacked a street sign with a basketball. The sound rattled down the block, and I turned around to see if anybody was watching. We talked about going back there to see what was going on. Maybe there was a police tape around the car already and a bunch of cops asking people about what they had seen. We thought we could find out if the man was still alive that way, but in the end we decided against it. "What if he's still in the car and nobody's found him yet?" Marcus asked. "Do we call an ambulance? Do we leave him there?" "I don't know," I said. "I can't think straight." So we just kept walking in circles around the projects. Then Marcus said, "I thought I recognized that man from somewhere." I told him that he was just imagining things, but he said how that could have been the father of some kid he knew, and his eyes started to tear. "I knew I fucked this up for us and got that man shot. I should have took the gun when you asked. I punked out," Marcus said. I didn't want to hear any more, so I started to walk off. Marcus grabbed my shoulder to turn me back around. That's when he saw the blood on my coat. I rubbed the spots hard with spit and some napkins I found up against the curb, but it wouldn't come off, and I wasn't about to take it home for my mom to wash. We ditched the coat into an open trash bag out behind White Castle. I tied the bag up tight with 2 strong knots. The gloves looked clean, but we didn't want to hold on to them or leave them in the same place as my coat, so we stuffed them down a sewer on the next street corner. I was freezing, but I couldn't go home without a coat, or maybe somebody might put 2 and 2 together. Marcus took me back to his place. We were always trading jackets anyway, so I'd be able to get away with that. But as soon as I walked in the door, his mother asked me, "Where's your coat, child?" I told her that I took it off to play ball and somebody walked away with it. "What some kids won't do to get what they want," she said, shaking her head. It was almost like lying to my own mother, but before it got any worse, Marcus came out with another jacket and told her that he was going to walk me home. "Don't you boys go looking for who took that coat now," she said. "Just let it go. Maybe some poor child needs to keep warm. It's cold as the devil out there." I promised her that we wouldn't, and Marcus said he'd come straight home. After we left, we didn't say a word to each other for a while. I knew how terrible I felt, but I knew that Marcus was feeling even worse than I did. Maybe because that man was black too. We passed back through the circle and it was empty. Everybody calls that park the Circle because it's right in the middle of the Ravenswood houses, surrounded by the buildings on every side. I've been playing there since I was 13. Marcus brought me down after we met at the courts on 21st Street, over by the Departments of Sanitation. I'm the only white kid that hangs out there. Nobody took me right away. I had to fight plenty of times before I got any respect. But the Circle is where Black and White was born. And now we ran that court because nobody else could deal with the 2 of us. I stopped us on the corner of my block. I didn't need to take Marcus inside with me and risk having to answer any more questions. So we clamped our hands together and gave each other a pound. But it didn't feel like usual. I got into the house and up to my room without having to say a word to anybody.